Shalom everyone and welcome to another one of our videos. This is Chazak Aliyahu Yasharal here, and today we are going to be looking at a question that was posed on our YouTube channel in the comment section, and that is why we love the comments, because the comments gives us ideas and it brings out even more truth than that which we have already brought out. So keep the comments coming, okay? Now this comment was posted as a response to our video entitled Why We Must Flee Out of the Midst of Babylon. And she said, I do have a serious question, Brother Kazakh. I understood everything you spoke about in this lesson, but was then led to Psalm 91. All of this psalm is important, but my question to you comes about Psalms 91 verse 10 in particular. Since Ecclesiastes 1:9 to 10 says there's new thing under the sun, wouldn't this protection be the same for those of us in the cities that are unable to flee to the mountains? Just as when the Most High sent the angel of death through the land of Mitzrayim, smiting their firstborn, but the Hebrews were passed over? Very, very good, legitimate question. I'm happy for this question to bring out more and more of the truth to let us get a greater understanding of the Most High. So let's go. Psalm 91 verse 10 says, There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. And the very important thing about this verse is thy dwelling. Where is thy dwelling? Are we dwelling where we want to dwell, or are we dwelling where the Most High says we should dwell? Because if we go down to verse 14, look at verse 14. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. So, he will deliver us because we have set our love upon him. And what is love? What does 1 John 5:3 say? For this is the love of Allah, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So when he tells us where to dwell, and we dwell where we want to dwell, then we have disobeyed his commandments. So go back to 14. Because he has set his love upon me, because he keeps my commandment, therefore will I deliver him. He will not deliver us if we are keeping our own commands. Okay? And go back to 2 John 1:6. And this is love, that we walk after his commandment. This is a commandment that ye have heard from the beginning. Ye should walk in it. Very important. We have to obey him. And that is how he delivers us. All right? So if we go back to Psalm 91 verse 1, it says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now he that dwelleth, he that abides in the secret place of the Most High. So where is the secret place? And that word secret there comes from the Hebrew sitra, which means a cover, a hiding place, covering, protection. Okay? Those who dwell under the protection, in the protection of the Most High. And his protection is in his commands. So whatever he says we should do, we should do. Now another thing that we are doing, the main presentation that we're giving today, is that whenever the Most High is going to deliver us, he sets us apart. We have to be sanctified before he delivers us. He always sets us apart before he delivers us. Now let's go. And let's move to Leviticus 11:45. For I am Yahuwah that bringeth you up out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Aluah. Ye shall therefore be set apart, for I am set apart. Ye shall be Kodesh, for I am Kodesh. You shall be holy, for I am holy. So his people are to be set apart. Now his people cannot be set apart if let's go to the book of Haggai 2 verses 11 to 13. Thus saith Yahuwah Sabaoth, Ask now the priests concerning the law, saying, if one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread, or pottage, or wine, or oil, or any meat, shall it be kodesh? Shall it be holy? And the priest answered and said, no. So if something that is holy touches the unholy, which is unholy does not become holy. Then said Haggai, if one that is unclean by a dead body touch any of these, shall it be unclean? And the priest answered and said, it shall be unclean. So if a person who is holy is marred by something unholy, that person becomes unholy. But if that holy person touches something that is unholy, it does not become holy. What are we saying here? When we are among abominable people, these people, they desecrate us. They make us unholy. For example, this thing that we are in Babylon now, the abomination of desolation. There have been numerous people who have reported being ill by being associated, by being around people who have taken this thing. I was speaking probably last week to a person I know, and the person was showing me a spray that he had to make with eucalyptus oil, etc. He has a bar, and he says whenever people come in, the people who take this come into his place, he knows, because right away he starts feeling ill and his nose starts tingling. And he says he has to spray the thing and put it over his nose to help him. So when we are among these people are going to pollute our bodies. That's why the Most High wants us to come out of her. Okay? So before we are gathered at all times, Zephaniah 3:11-13, the very principle that we have to understand. Before we are gathered, because it's a time for us to be gathered. We know that. We know that it's the end and it's time for us to be gathered. But people are waiting in Babylon to be gathered. This is the problem. In the midst of Babylon, they are in the midst of Babylon waiting to be gathered. Zephaniah 3:10 says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed shall bring mine offering. In that day shalt thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then will I take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my set apart mountain. This is what the Most High does. He's going to take out those who rejoice in their pride. Where is the pride? In the midst of Babylon. Where is humility? By being willing to flee out of the midst of Babylon and go and live off the land. Go and live off the grid. Go and live off all the prideful things. That is humility. He says he's going to take away out of the midst them that rejoice in their pride. Those people who are unwilling to flee from Babylon and from the comforts and everything of Babylon. He's going to take away out of their midst. And he says in 12, I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of Yahuwah. What is this? An afflicted and poor people is a people who are willing to give up everything and to move away from Babylon's system. They will be afflicted, they will be poor, but these are who he will gather. The remnant of Yasharal shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. So, before the Most High gathers us, he is going to take out of us those who rejoice in their pride. We have to be sanctified. And this is why throughout Scripture, it tells us about when the Messiah returns, we must be without spot and blameless and without wrinkle and all of that. And we must be prepared to be sanctified and to be holy on that day. That's what it's all about. Before the Most High gathers us, before he does his action consistently, we have to be purified at all times. And we cannot be purified in the midst of Babylon. And we're going to show that in Mitzrayim, it was the same thing. Our people were set apart from the rest of the Egyptians. Okay? So, yeah, the Most High separates us from other people. We're going to go to Egypt, but we're just giving you foundational scriptures. The Most High sets us apart from other people. But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, which have separated you from other people. Before you go into the land, you have to be separated from other people. Yes? Ye shall therefore put a difference between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. So before he gathers us, we have to put a difference between the clean and unclean. We have to separate ourselves. Have to. And ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. Verse 26, and ye shall be Kadosh unto me, for I, Yahuwah, am Kadosh, and have severed you from other people, that ye should be mine. He has ripped us apart from other people, severed us. This is what happens before we inherit the land. He severs us. This is why it says, flee from the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Because Babylon is polluted. Before he gathers us, he is going to sever us apart. We're going to see that this is the same thing he did in Egypt. He's going to sever us from other people. Very consistent. So this is where we're arriving at now. We were separated in Egypt. Even though we were in Egypt, we were set apart from them. Verse 9 to 11. This was when Joseph was giving his brothers instructions for them to go for his father. Haste ye and go up to my father and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, Allah hath made me master of all Mitzrayim. Come down unto me, tarry not, and thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there will I nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine, lest thou and thy household, and all that thou hast, come to poverty. So the children of Israel were set apart in a place called Goshen, and we shall not show how they were set apart. And this is what he's telling us to do. When he says flee from the midst of Babylon, to set apart ourselves, because we are scattered to the four corners of the earth. So this setting apart is our Goshen all over the world. Because this time we are scattered. We are not in one place as the children of Israel were. At that time, we are scattered to the four corners of the earth. So every little place that we go is our little Goshen. Okay, so here's how we were set apart in Goshen. Genesis 46, 31 to 34. Here's how we were set apart. And Joseph said unto his brethren, and unto his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade hath been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? That ye shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that we may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. That's how we were set apart. Our value was cattle in cattle. And the Egyptians hated the shepherds. Therefore, the children of Israel were able to be set apart in Goshen because of the hatred of the Egyptians for shepherds. So this is why we're telling you, it's very consistent. He said, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new. It's the same thing. We were set apart in Egypt before we were delivered from Egypt. And we are still going to be in Babylon, but we are going to flee from the midst. So we are going to be set apart from the midst of Babylon. All right? So he puts a physical division between his people and the Egyptians. Shemot 8:21 to 23. Else if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and the houses of Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell. His people were set apart. They dwelt alone in Goshen. This is what he's going to do when we flee from the midst of Babylon. He's going to sever us from other people. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen in which my people dwell. Says people did not mix and intermingle all over Egypt. These people were in one place, set apart in one place. This is what he wants us to do. That no swarm of flies shall be there. To the end thou mayest know that I am Yahuwah in the midst of the earth. That is how and where he delivers us when we follow his commands. His commands were that they should live in Goshen. His commands for us today is to flee from the midst of Babylon. He says those who set his love upon him, he will deliver. That means those who obey his commands, he will deliver. And his commands is for us to flee from the midst of Babylon. His command is not for us to stay in Babylon. He says flee. We have to be separate. Before we are delivered, we have to be separate. We have to be set apart, not polluted by the heathen. And that is how we are delivered. And Shemot 9:25-26. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Mitzrayim, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every herb of the field, and brake every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. You see the separation? It did not say all over Mitzrayim, where the children of Israel were, there was no hail. No. Any one of the children of Israel who had gone and joined themselves unto the Egyptians and disobeyed, not living in Goshen, living with Egyptian, taking on the life of the Egyptian, they would also have suffered from these plagues. Only in the land. What did he say? What does only mean? Only means only. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Yasharal were, there was no hail. People, the Most High gives us instructions on how to set ourselves apart. You see, what we tend to do, and this is something that I found out earlier in my walk, that we just need to keep his commandments and then we'll get the understanding. What we tend to do is stubbornly reject or disobey his commands and expects him to accept it and to work with it and to reward us the same. No, he gives us command to flee. We must flee. All right? So his protection is for people who have separated themselves physically and spiritually. Shemot 12:21-28. Then Moses called for all the elders of Yasharal and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. Now what are we saying here with this Passover? We're saying that the Most High made provision for us to be spiritually separated from the Egyptians. We like to say, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty refers to the Passover. Yes, it refers to it, but there's more to it than that. It would just be, all right, we keep the Passover so we are protected. So any person can just be clean on that day, and then when it's over, they go back into uncleanness. Oh, that is why after the Passover, he gives you the Feast of Unleavened Bread to continue to take the leaven or the sin away from us. That's not what it's all about. It is more than just keeping the Passover. It is obeying all his instructions with all our hearts, sanctifying ourselves, getting ourselves clean. And getting ourselves clean is removing from out of the way of the wicked. And he shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. That's another thing, separating in their habitation. None shall go out. He protects them in their dwelling. For Yahuwah will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, Yahuwah will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And he shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. What we are looking at here is that the Most High tells us to remember this forever. Why remember it forever? Because he never ever wants us to forget, never ever wants us to forget that we were in Mitzrayim, set apart in Mitzrayim, and we did this set apart thing that caused him to deliver us because we were set apart. Yes? That's what holy means, to be set apart. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, it is a sacrifice of Yahuwah's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Yasharal went away and did as Yahuwah had commanded Moses and Aaron. So did they. This verse 28 is very important. Are we going to leave and do as Yahuwah commands us to flee from the midst of Babylon? That is the question. All right? So we cannot, and the reason the Most High wants us to set ourselves apart, and the reason he's going to deliver us, is that we must fully leave from the midst in order to properly serve Alua. The children of Yasharal had to leave from the midst of the Egyptians. Verse 24, and Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, go ye, serve Yahuwah, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. So Pharaoh was playing smart. Go and serve Yahuwah, but let your flocks and your herds, because they know their flocks and their herds are there. They're not going to lead them. They're going to come back for them. Okay? And Moses said, you must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto Yahuwah our Alua. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind, for thereof must we take to serve Yahuwah our Alua. And we know not with what we must serve Yahuwah until we come thither. So we don't know how we shall serve the Most High until we leave. And this is the same thing for us when he says flee from the midst of Babylon. We are serving the Most High, trying to serve the Most High in Babylon. And we have found that it is impossible because Babylon's rules contradict the Most High's ways. So as long as we are in Babylon, we are not going to be able to serve the Most High. So how are we going to be able to face the Messiah when he comes without spot or wrinkle and blemish? How? We are going to be blemished. Babylon's going to blemish you with their food, with their education, with their occupations, with their way of life, their everything, their social media, their television, their entertainment, their nudity, everything. How are we going to be blameless in the time of the return of the Mashiach? All right? So the question is, where will the Most High deliver us? Where will he deliver us? For that we go back to Psalms 91, verses 14 to 15. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high because he hath known my name. We already looked at that, having to do with the commandments. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. So this deliverance now, where will it happen? Where will it happen? Will it happen anywhere? And for that we go to Micah 4, 6 to 10. This is the way we have ended about 4 of our last videos have ended with this very same verse, but we are not really at the end. Micah 4, 6 to 10. In that day, saith Yahuwah, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. So Micah is telling us here that when he comes to deliver us, which is what we are waiting on. This is what I'm talking now, is what we are waiting on. When he comes to deliver us from Babylon, this is the scenario. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast afar off a strong nation. And Yahuwah shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. This is the kingdom when we are gathered, when we are delivered. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. So problems here, because when we are being delivered, it's not going to be comfortable. Yes? It's not going to be comfortable. Why? Because we would have fled to the mountains trying to, because just think about it. Leaving all these comforts of Babylon and going into the mountains where some of us might even be dwelling in tents, living off the land, it's going to be very unsettling and people are going to be like, wow, should I really be doing this? People are going to have doubts, but remember Lot's wife. No turning back. Anyway, verse 10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There Yahuwah shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. This is where we will be delivered, people. This is the Psalm 91 deliverance in the end times. All right? Go forth out of the city, dwell in the field, in Babylon. Just as how in Egypt our people were set apart in Goshen. In Babylon, in the end times, we are scattered in captivity. We are to leave out of the midst of Babylon and go in the field and await our deliverance. There shalt thou be delivered when you go out of the city into the field in Babylon from the hands of your enemies. All right? That was my response to the question about Psalms 91. He will deliver those who know his name, those who love him. And we know to love him is to keep his commandments, those who obey him. And before he gathers his people have to be set apart and sanctified before they are gathered. When the Messiah comes, we have to be found in perfection, without spot and wrinkle, set apart unto him. Likewise, when he's gathering us now, we have to be set apart. We have to be separate, as the children of Israel were separate in Goshen in Egypt. All right? Yeah, so that was the answer to the question. Hope it shed some light on it for our sister and for others out there. All right? This is Chazak Eliyahu Yasharal here, and just want to ask you to continue to like, comment, because your comments are very useful, and share our videos, sharing especially our videos so that our channel can continue to grow. All right, let's share this with someone as you do the others. All right, so thank you all for watching. Until next time, shalom.